I'm living in that 21st century, doing something mean to it. Do it better than anybody you ever seen. Do it. Screams from the haters, got a nice ring to it. I guess every superhero need his theme music.
In this video, we'll examine the 5 forms of power identified by French and Raven. The first type of power we will discuss is reward power. This type of power focuses on motivating individuals through financial or time-based rewards. Think along the lines of how salespeople work on commission. The better you do, the more money or time you will get. The main challenge to overcome when motivating others through the use of rewards is that the rewards can become expected, and withholding the rewards from average performance can be perceived as punishment and demotivating. Here we can see how a group of unmotivated employees can only be productive when stimulated by financial compensation. Odds are that without the $20, motivating these employees in the future will be a much harder task. Next up is coercive power, where we will encounter the dark side of workplace and relationships. This type of power focuses on motivating individuals through punishment or the expectation of punishment for not performing at satisfactory level. One prominent example of this American society would be a military drill sergeant. Mess up and you'll be pushing the earth. In this example, Darth Manager encounters an employee goofing off and ensures that he understands the ramifications for his actions. The poor intern is feeling the pain. While this form of power is extremely effective in the short term and under the supervision of the person who holds it, in their absence, it quickly goes away. Now we'll take a look at legitimate power, which is probably what comes to mind when you think about your average relationship with a boss. This type of power is based upon a mutual understanding between an individual and their superior that the superior has the right to influence them. Just consider the way in which a professor interacts with their class of students. It is understood that the professor has the right to tell the students what to do within reason, or they usually maintain control of the physical environments by standing at the front of the class. In this clip, we can see a boss who might have become a little too comfortable with the legitimate power dynamics within the workplace. While legitimate power is reasonably effective, it does have its limits. Let's examine referent power, which is difficult to acquire but incredibly effective, and referent power focuses on attracting followers through an inner charisma, instilling a desire within the follower to become more like the holder of the power. Unlike the previous forms of power, referent power does not imply that the holder holds a superior position to the person being influenced. An example of referent power would be the way a pastor might lead a church congregation. Amongst those who refer to the power holder, it is unlikely that any other source of power will have a superior influence. Here we see the effects of what was once a legitimate power holder attempting to overshadow a widely respected holder of referent power. It should be noted that this form of power, amongst all others, requires the greatest ethical consideration, as the power holder may hold extreme influence over followers. Finally, we look at expert power, or the power of the future. This type of power is based upon highly specialized knowledge that can typically be acquired only through years of on-the-job experience in a workplace. Think about the computer guy who instantly becomes your best friend when your computer stops working. Our ORGB textbook identifies 3 conditions that must be in place: trust in the expert, relevance to target, and a positive perception of the power holder. Expert power has been shown to have the highest levels of work performance and on-the-job satisfaction. If you have to pick one form of power to pursue in your future career, expert power is the way to go. In closing, referent and expert are the most effective, the hardest to acquire, and the least often held. And while reward coercive and legitimate power are commonly held, think about how going above and beyond the usual can benefit you and your career.
Ring to it. I guess every superhero need his theme music. No one man